Chapter 33 The Fifth Heaven and the 19th Teacher, the Root. I went to find her flowers, because that's what you do in the spirit of love. When someone opens us to the gift of existence, it would be proper for us to make an offering of devotion. Flowers were placed at her feet, and I humbled myself because she helped me become aware, and so it was very human of me to wonder if she'd acknowledge these gifts, but all I heard was the silence behind the wind sweeping through the air. When I rose to my feet, I found that she was gone. I did not fear her departure, for I knew she was everywhere at once. And whenever I clung to her, I was like a child pulling at the hip of his mother, screaming, "Mommy, Mommy!" Of course, I wanted her to notice me, but I'd also grown enough that I didn't want to be a bother. I spent that afternoon in the silence. There I waited with the simplicity of the earth. The air was so welcoming, but then there was a consistent annoyance that grew to be absurd. News spread about the election, and this was acknowledged all throughout the land. But I did not care for politics. But then why did this annoyance continue to expand? It was one side against the other, a fight to demonize and ridicule. Did either side even respect the other? And so they would stand upon podiums and take turns bashing their opponents, trying to make them look like fools. Oh goodness, please let this world find peace. And why is it that every time either side speaks, the insanity seems to increase? This was the spirit of ego arising, and I knew it all too well. It seemed to mirror religion in some ways. Everyone believed their version of God was the way to heaven, while everyone else would be sentenced to hell. I knew what both sides of this political race were after. They wanted more power. Then I heard someone sneaking up from behind me.
"And so falls the tower,"
said a woman. I turned around and saw a woman I'd never seen.
"Oh, these flowers are beautiful,"
said the woman's voice.
"I am in service of whomever sets the flowers and mushrooms free."
She took hold of the flowers and smiled with great exuberance. "Hey, those are for Mahashakti."
"Yes, I am her, Saraswati. And did you know that once upon a time, the swastika was a sacred symbol for thousands of years until it was taken and used as the crest for the Nazis? You know, the Nazis thought of themselves like a Justice League, and so did the kamikazes. Whenever a group of humans uses my name or symbol for political aims, I, Maha, become quite deadly. It would be a shame if someone turned my name, Maha, into some sort of acronym, even if they were only trying to make America healthy. Be careful. If you bring my name into this, you're following the same framework that built the Nazi vigilantes. It starts with something simple, like using my name for your own gain. They should have stuck with "Make Earth Great Again" while running their campaign. You know, I was there when he spoke, and all he said was, "I'll do this, I'll do that. Me, 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 me. Why, I have got your back." He said they are the problem, and BlackRock is causing cancer. Vanguard creates the world's problems. He said, "I'm the one who can fix it. Look at me. I am the answer." But I'm afraid the ego is obsessed in its own selfish manner. Ever been near a politician? They're always talking about the me, saying, "I'll cut rates, I'll add jobs." But what about the rest of humanity? It must be about the we. We all have our part. We are all the answer. And that is why it is up to all of us to come together. You see, the ego gave birth to the Nazis. They began to protect their own idea of selfish supremacy. They took my symbol and built their own Justice League. Next came death camps and gas chambers, all because they lost sight of the we. And so, a silly politician may think he's smart by making his move, but he's following the same blueprint as the Nazis. Oh, next time you see him, remind him to be aware of Mahashakti, because when I get mad, I become Kali. And if he really wants to push my buttons, tell him Mahakali will be the only winner of World War III. It's dangerous to use the spirit of sacredness for one's own political benefit, and it creates a blood-red sign to usher in a very rude awakening. They may think they are cunning, but those egomaniacs are mistaken,
she said. Well, put those flowers down. That's my offering for the great immortal mother.
Yes, thank you. It's a beautiful offering to the mother, and because of it, you will never know hunger,
she said. This had become quite the conundrum, and I couldn't understand this strange mystery. In front of me, an exquisite woman was sniffing the bouquet, and behind me was the chaos of the Republican and Democratic parties. They kept yapping about future policies, but both parties were robbers and thieves. They'd taken from the poor, middle class, and the rich. Then they'd claim they were helping, yet behind the scenes, they held insider secrets to gain more money. It was all nonsense, and both sides were a sham, pretending to be helping the great predicaments of the world. Meanwhile, it was getting harder and harder to make a living.
Why do you care so much about politics?
Asked the woman who took the flowers. I don't care, but I'm aware, and this whole situation makes me bothered. Neither side is relying upon their morals. Both parties are set up with one goal, to defeat the other. It's about the principle, and I can't stand seeing both sides being dominated by fear. They'll say anything to get into the presidency, and all their words are totally insincere. On one side, you have a bunch of egomaniacs and liars who literally tried to hijack the presidency after their group lost the last election. Then on the other side, you have a corrupt coup who profits off the world's emotions. And when you look beyond the surface, there's something extremely dark that is hidden. They are using popularity to remain in power, and they are fueling a corrupt system. And when you try to talk sense to either of them, no one will listen. Both sides are missing the point, and if it was up to me, both sides would be forbidden.
Aha! Then I've got a solution,
said the divine woman. All the while, I'd been distracted by the corruption going on behind this current election. And when I looked back at the woman, she used the seeds of flowers and made a whole garden. She replanted all that I'd offered for Mahashakti, and so the landscape began to flourish from my original offering. Hey, how'd you do that? The flowers are even more beautiful than before.
Like I said, I've got the solution. World hunger nevermore,
she said. Well, what is it?
I call it the root, and this isn't something secret. You know how both parties are hiding plenty, but I've got the solution that will make both sides get with it.
She paused.
But I'm not sure they're going to like it, since I don't care for politics. And I'm an expert at social activism, since I teach humans to face uncertainty with tenacity as I help all worlds form deep connections. No bureaucracy is going to save the world, and so it sure looks like things are going to have to fall apart. So do you know what will actually change the world?
She asked. I don't know.
A single human heart,
she said. Well, where do we start? She paused and grew a bit somber.
I'm not sure if you want to hear this part,
she said. And so I pleaded with her to tell me, but she just wouldn't budge. She'd become like the silent one, and all the while, I followed her while she tended to the great garden with an abundance of love. At least give me a hint.
Of course, we're going to require the help from both sides,
she said. Aha! Then we'll come together.
Let's just say that any blockade that stands against unity must die,
she said. Unity? Now the air rushed by in the sky. Wait, what do you mean that something has to die?
The solution isn't always what you expect, but it's the natural way of things. If the system is broken, then we're going to have to shift the ways we think. That means two have no choice but to come together, and that may mean both sides get pushed to the brink. But don't focus on the destructive aspects of it. Rather, it's like building a great link. That's the main idea behind creation, after all. It's a reuniting of two halves. This is a great turning point. We are coming together at last,
she said. Wait a minute. Why'd you take the mother's flowers? How do I know you're not like the politicians? How do I know you're not just after more power?
Let's examine what you just said, because that thought is letting the spirit of ego back in. Let us take a deep breath and consider what lives within. We are of the soul, and I am the Great Mother's daughter. You gave her an offering, so I am a seedling of the Great Mother's flowers. She planted me, and I arose like a lotus. Within all of us is the seed of life, and this seedling is loving awareness. Don't get caught in the cycles of sides. Do not get trapped in the politician's spell. May all beings be happy. May all beings heal. Together it happens, even if you try to fight. But the Great Mother already knows what's coming. She's bringing the new earth to life. My mother is your mother. My father is your father. I am your sister, and you are my brother. Together we flourish. Together we usher in the age of truth. Now rise and accept your duty. We are called to bloom,
she said. The garden began to flourish faster, and never in my life had I seen such a miracle. I could not imagine such a fast growth of wild flowers, or how the growth of such abundant food was even possible.
There are only two ways to live your life: as if nothing is a miracle, or as if everything is a miracle. Everything that is happening upon the earth is a reflection of all that is happening through the spiritual. This garden is not outside. This garden is deep within. So do not think of yourself as a human being, but rather, we are spiritual beings having a human experience,
she said. Yes, that may be so, but the problems of this world are very human. There are wars and crises all over the earth, and so there is so much suffering. What is the way? There must be more to your solution. Of course, we wish to unite, but what on earth is happening?
The one who wins the race is the one who seeks to feed all beings upon this world. In order for us to love and serve all beings, first, we must deal with world hunger. As long as all of us are not fed, then there will always be wars and anger. But once the belly of every man, woman, and child is full, then we can begin to work so that all beings have shelter. This is the new earth. It is the way God intended it to be. Only after we feed all beings from the root of the earth will we be able to have peace,
she said. I agree that diminishing hunger can lead to peace. But when you speak of this new earth, how do you know that this is the way that God intended it to be.
When any soul enters into the physical world, it first becomes embodied within a plant, a creature, or a human. And so we can examine a child. While the soul is peaceful, but the only way this being survives is through proper sustenance and nutrition. That means that although it appears like a long journey to peace, feeding all beings is the true solution. Now we can consider what happens as a child grows into an adult, and so we will consider the human's evolution.
She said, "Wait a minute. I'm not sure if I believe in evolution."
Hear me without judgment. I'm talking about the journey to adulthood from children. Take a deep breath. This is something worthy of consideration. We are talking about the evolution of consciousness. We are not here to debate where humanity or God comes from. Rather, we are seeking to consider the highest level that humanity can grow into. And this is the highest evolution in which a human can become. We will call this journey consciousness. And if humans are not fed, they will resort to all types of animalistic or primal behavior. Their utmost concern will be hunting and gathering, because this will be the means of their survival. If a human is not fed, their means to secure food will grow more and more hostile and intense, because at the root of our humanity is the ability for humans to survive and protect themselves. As long as there is hunger, then comes the growing sense of aggression, and so this level of primal or animalistic consciousness will remain until their basic necessities are met. Maslow documented a great hierarchy of human needs, such as breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, and sleep. Next comes safety and security, which includes health, employment, property, family, and social ability. After this comes love and belonging, which is the basis that brings us to friendship, family, intimacy, a sense of connection, and community. After this comes self-esteem, which is confidence, achievement, respect of others, and the need to be a unique individual. And finally, the peak of humanity, which is called self-actualization or enlightenment. This is the essence of mortality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance, discovering meaning, realizing our inner potential, and experiencing our true purpose. It all starts from our basic needs, which is centered around feeding all people. Once this is done, we move upwards, and the goal of humanity is to discover our deepest potential. And so, what is our potential beyond the basic needs that are essential?
She asked. It must be the evolution of consciousness within humanity, from the primal to the spiritual.
Bingo! We call that the big breakthrough. And anyone who opposes this process comes to lose,
she said. But how do you know that? How can you be sure? You said that this is about unity, and unity is what we're meant for. The woman who grew from the root reached out her hand, and the moment I held it, our souls began to rise as we looked over the land. There a terrible army had formed, and it was dominating the earth.
So too, the spiritual army will rise. Mahashakti will do anything to protect the sacred heart. Anyone who obstructs the divine heart will not make it, and anyone who assists in the heart's opening will live. We are entering into the age of truth, and so it will be called New Earth,
she said. But how? I realize that this is the way, and the way of realization comes through awareness and contemplation. But how will this path be paved?
Let me show you a secret, one which has been hidden in time. The Divine Mother knows of your offering, and so she left behind one of our spiritual weapons,"
she said. There Saraswati took me to a mighty tree, and from this tree the highest state of spiritual consciousness awoke. "What is this place?"
"It is the Angel Oak,"
she said. There near the tree, I felt the intuition speak. It led me to a spot where I believed a great treasure had been buried. The woman was with me, and there we found a hidden chest. We opened it and found a divine bow. What in the world is this?
"Charanga. It is Vishnu's bow when he becomes the spiritual warrior. Next, you must go to find the sacred arrow. Take up this bow and be a protector of all creatures, plants, children, woman, and man. We will protect New Earth, for the tower of the old way is falling,"
she said. Again, we heard signs of the wicked army coming,
"Soon we will face them,"
she said. But how could anyone be ready?
"It is from our wounds that we are led through the doorway of transformation, and that wounded one, just as Jesus says, has a head start. The one who has felt the sickness, wound, or addiction learns to face it with humility, and so this leads to the beautiful doorway into the spiritual world of the highest reality,"
she said. Then I'll take hold of this bow. But where are the arrows? And why was it buried?
"Go forth and find the arrow, for this bow was Rama's and was concealed by the 7 immortals,"
she said. Yes, but who are the 7 immortals?
"We mustn't think of them as 7 individuals, but rather we see them like 7 branches of a tree. Think of it like 7 representations of our spiritual evolution, where one can find the nectar of immortality. These are the 7 great lineages, and along each of them are great communities. Take up Rama's bow, find the sacred arrow, and be a protector of the spiritual army. Know that this bow comes from the hand of immortality, and so you will be given all the resources you need. Call forth the spiritual army, then raise the bow. Find the arrow, then fire when you see the approaching enemy. For they will not stop, and they will not listen to reason. Once you fire a single sacred arrow, then all will be accomplished,"
she said. Taking hold of the bow, we would go off in search of the arrow. Then she led me to a white horse before I went forward. But our politicians are egomaniacs. They know not what they do. They are like the critics and comedians who are stuck on the old ways of the old world. So how could they ever see creation's truth?
"No one can stop what is coming. No one can alter the truth. Armies and leaders may believe that they hold power and control, but no government can stop the power that is within you. What they see in the world is only a reflection of their own projections, but they cannot see beyond the material world, and so only a spiritual seeker holds the key into the spiritual dimension. Fear not. In time, all the forces you oppose will dissolve and disappear. Remember, we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are,"
she said. But if this bow belongs to the Creator, then why should it rest in the hand of man?
"Because the tribe of New Earth is worthy, and it is we who open the 7 seals. We have taken the journey from the bottom of human nature to the highest consciousness, and so our bodies and the world will heal. That is why we have found this weapon, and this is the bow from a higher consciousness. Simply by holding it, you will know how and when to use it. Until then, meditate in the space of higher awareness. Ride upon the wind horse. You will know when it is time to do your part. Never forget that the great immortal beings are with you, for the nature of their spiritual souls dwell within the nature of our hearts,
she said. At the very end of the garden, there was an old door. Ivy and flowers had grown around the sides, and from the looks of it, it had only been opened a few times before.
Enter within. It will lead us where we are meant to go. You have received what the soul requires, and now you hold the celestial bow,
she said. As I twisted the door handle and went through, I saw the universe as a sort of hologram in which the individuality and collective group can affect the outcome. Yet there seemed to be a common point, and so I saw this as clear light. This light was unstained by choice, and so this light became water, which allowed us to live our life. It taught me that emotions affect living organisms and even inanimate matter, and so depending on the state of the mind space, it seems we in turn create our outer world. I call it cause and effect, and the outer world was all a consequence of choice. God was the universe, and this essence of light is basic goodness, of love and joy. Prayer, meditation, and ritual are methods to unite us into this clear light of spirituality, and these practices help settle the mind space, which allows us to realize the true nature of reality. In life, we take our soul to inhabit a body. Thus, we use this form to discover our true purpose. We are here to awaken to the highest consciousness. We are here to awaken from the illusion of separateness.